Hi everyone, this is 𝐂𝐝𝐿 from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session. Today's session is on React Native interview questions. So without any delay, let's go to the agenda. Firstly, we will have an overview of React Native in which we will see how popular is React Native. And later, we will also see what are job trends and salary packages provide for React Native developers. Next, we will see what are all the skills required for the React Native developers. After that, we will look at some of the key questions frequently asked by the interviewers. These are divided into beginner level, intermediate level, and advanced level. At last, we will have a quick MCQ session that would no less than be a quiz, where we will share some of the important questions where you have to answer them within a given time. But before we go ahead, just make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all the Edureka videos. And if you are interested in getting an online training certification course in React Native or in React.js, then please check out the link given in the description box. Let's quickly start with an overview of React Native. As we know, React Native is an open source front-end framework, and it was developed by Facebook and released in 2015. And it was basically designed for building apps and for multiple platforms like iOS and Android. You can also use React in today's existing apps like Android on OS projects, or you can create a whole new app from the scratch. Now we will see how popular React Native is. Fortune 500 companies like Tesla, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and many more such companies uses React Native, as well as have a huge demand on such professionals using React Native. According to Stack Overflow survey, React Native is placed in the 5th place by the popularity, and it is also the most well-liked JavaScript framework, received an overall satisfaction of 87% from more than 17,000 users. Now let us see the job trends and salary packages. So, when it comes to jobs and salary trends, we always compare India and USA. In India, React Native developers earn around 4.8 lakhs per annum as an average. Apart from this, there are more than 3,000 plus job opportunities for React Native professionals. Whereas in United States, React Native developers can easily earn around $88,252 per annum as an average, and 14,000 plus job opportunities for React Native professionals. Now that we understood the job trends and the salary packages. Now let us move on to the skills required to become a good React Native developer. To become a good React Native developer, we need some certain skills. As you can see in the diagram, a developer must know the front-end technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and other programming languages, platforms, frameworks, and other technologies too. And the passion for delivering the attractive and clean and readable, maintainable code. And also, the person must know by using Node Package Manager, a developer must know where to use the third-party libraries in the code. And a good React Native developer should have a basic covered in C, Kotlin, and Java in order to make the app work, since it is something necessary to use some tools from the native side too. Now let's dive into interview questions. Let's start with the beginner level. Now let us see what is state. A state is a built-in React object that contains some of the data or some information of the component. A component state can change over a time whenever it changes or the component re-renders. For example, let's take a toggle button. Now here this button is a prop and which does not change. Here we want to change whether the button should be on or off. So that is state. The value which is stored in that button is called state. Let's move on to the next question. How is React Native different from other frameworks for developing a mobile application? Unlike other frameworks, React Native allows developers to reuse the code across the web and the mobile, and to build apps that works across iOS and Android using the same code and the underlying architecture. That's a huge advantage for the developers, right? Okay, now I have a question from Tanishka. She's asking, is there any other reason that makes React Native different? Yes, of course. Not only it makes easy for the code and it uses the same base, also it has a number of open source libraries of pre-built components which can help you further speed up the development process too. I hope you understood. So let's move on to the next question. What are props and how it is used in React Native? Just now we saw what is states and now we'll see what is props. Props are nothing but the short form of the property. So these properties are passed to the components when the component is created. Props are used to provide some properties to the component using which they can be modified or customized. So we have a question from Vani saying that why are props immutable? Okay. So in React we have state and props. The props are totally dependent on state, where if you want to change the prop values, then you have to change the state value, because the properties are totally controlled by states. So it cannot be done dynamically. And if you want to change the property, then you have to change it in the code. Now let's take a simple example. Let's consider we have a car and a road. So here car or any vehicle is a prop and the road is state. So while traveling you cannot change the vehicle, where you can change the road depending on the destination. So you can take the diversion depending on the route you have. So the vehicle here is totally depend on the road, that is state, to reach the destination. I hope you understood, Vani. Let's move on to the next question. What are pure components in React Native? According to the definition, a React component is considered pure if it renders the same output from the same state and props, which means the output is shown as same as the state and props without any modifications, then it is called pure components. So it should not be editable, or it should not be edited or modified. It should be the same output as the state and the props value. Now let's go to the next question. What is difference between virtual DOM and shadow DOM? Okay, now let's understand what is DOM first of all. DOM stands for Document Object Model. In simple terms, it is a structured representation of an HTML element that will be shown into the web page or a web application. In React Native, we have virtual DOM and shadow DOM. Now, what is virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is an actual representation of the real DOM, whereas shadow DOM encapsulates some of the components from the actual DOM, which means it hides some of the components from the actual DOM. If we talk about the key differences of virtual DOM and shadow DOM, the virtual DOM is a complete representation of an actual DOM, whereas shadow DOM is not a complete representation of either DOM. Virtual DOM is a copy of whole DOM object. It does not isolate the DOM, whereas shadow DOM creates a small pieces of the DOM. Also, it isolates some of the components from the globe DOM, that is actual DOM. Now let's move on to the next question. That is, what is Flexbox? Flexbox is one-dimensional layout method for arranging items into rows and columns. In simple words, it is designed to have a consistent layout on a different screen sizes. For example, we might have a smartphone to tablets, right? The screen size may differ from one devices to another. So, to fit into the screen, we use flex directions, align items, and justify content to make the items fit into the device or the screen. We'll move on to the next question. That is, what are controlled and uncontrolled components in React Native? According to definition, uncontrolled components are those elements that are handled by the DOM, not by the state. Whereas controlled components that are handled by the state and it uses props to get the current value depending on the callbacks like onClick, onChange, etc. to make changes. Factually, it is better to use controlled components other than uncontrolled components. So one of our folks have asked me a question. Let's see. Deepika have asked me why controlled components are better. Okay. So things are always better when it is under your control. For example, let's take a TV remote. And if you want to change a channel, then you can change within remote. And if you want to increase the volume or decrease the volume, or you can go back to other channel, the previous channel, then you can do it, right? So it is better to have a control over things. For example, here I'm taking a smartphone and it is under your choice. So you can change the theme or font or color or anything. So whichever is feasible for you or according to your requirements even. So whichever the app you want, you can click on it. So we use onClick or onChange for changing some themes or anything like that. So here the control components uses some props so it gets the current value and it callbacks like onClick and onChange. And we can make changes according to our requirements. I hope you understood. Now we have completed with the beginner level. Now let's go to intermediate level of questions. Let's see what are the difference between flat list and scroll view. In React Native, flat list is an effective way to create a scrolling list. So that contains a large amount of data without reducing the overall performances. So it is effective when we have the large arrays of data because it renders only a set of items that should be displayed in the screen. So when scrolling the list of data, the internal state will not be saved inside the memory. When we compare to scroll view renders all the data immediately after mounting the component. That means after refreshing the component. So this means the data in scroll view is mounted on the device's memory can lead to degraded performances when a large amount of data is being rendered. So in simple words, the flat view does not render all of the data at a time, whereas scroll view renders all of the data at the time of mounting. Now let us see the key difference between the scroll view and the flat list. So in scroll view, it does not provide any memory management, whereas in list view, it provides an automatic memory management to store data. In scroll view, it loads all the content at once, as I said before, but in list view, it loads some contents when the window is scrolled. Let's see the next question, how virtual DOM works in React Native. Whenever a new element is added to the UI, a new virtual DOM, which is represented as a tree, will be created. And each element in this node is a tree. If the state of any element have been updated or modified or changed, a new virtual tree will be created according to the changes. Now, this changed tree will be compared to the previous DOM. Now, once this is done, the new virtual DOM will be calculating the best possible methods to make changes on the real DOM. So this method finds the minimal operations on the real DOM by reducing the performance cost of updating the real DOM. I hope you understood. Let's move on to the next question. What is the difference between a component and an element? Okay, when we take React element, it is a basic building block of any React applications. So it is an object representation of the virtual DOM node. React element contains both type and property. So it may contain other elements in the property as well. So in React element, it does not have any methods making it light or faster to render the components. Now when we take up the components, so it is independent and reusable. Now it returns the virtual DOM of the element. It may pass or may not pass the parameters while creating a components. So next we'll see what are difference between a functional component and a class-based component. Let's see functional components first. These are the some of the most common concepts that we come across while creating a React applications. So these are simple JavaScript functions where we can create these functional components by writing a simple JavaScript function. In other words, like we can say, functional components in React is nothing but a JavaScript functions that renders a React element. So they can be accepted a single argument, which is an object containing component properties. So whereas if we take class components, these are the bread and butter of the modern web applications. So these components are simple classes which is made up of multiple functions that add functionalities to the applications. Now let's see what is list view and some of its uses. List view is a React's inbuilt view component. So it is basically designed to display some of the list items in a vertical scrollable form. So in other words, it is a core component. It is basically designed to show the items in a vertical form, and its uses will be like it has many other uses behind the screens. It allows us to have an efficient data blob. Now what is blob? Blob is nothing but it is a collection of binary data which is stored in a single entity. Okay. So list view allows us to have an efficient data blob that the list view component can understand in a simple form. Now let's see the next question. Write a program to display hello world in React Native. So here is the code. So first and foremost, we have to import the React, and we will be importing the text and view from the React Native. So we will be using inside this program. So we have to import it before we use it. Now we are giving some name to our application. I have given here your app. So that will be in a constant, and simultaneously we are exporting the same application name so that we will be able to use it through the app.js. Now we are using a view. Now whatever we write inside this view will be displayed in the screen as an output screen. So I have given the style here as flex1. Now flex is nothing but the layout that will be in a one dimension. And here I have given justify content center and alignment item center. So whatever I am writing inside this hello world will be aligned in center. And also I will be executing this program to better understand. Now here I have taken an online compiler. Now I will be executing the program, and let's run C. As you can see the output, the text I have written here is hello world and the output here. So let's change here. Yeah, as you can see the output, welcome to Edureka. So here I have given flex 1. So the whole layout is 1. And I have given the justify content into center and align item also center. So the wordings whatever I write here will be aligned in center. I hope you understand this question. So let's move on to the next question. What is gesture responder system in React Native? So for example, if you take any smart devices, so depending on the touch, it recognizes whether your intention is to slide or to scroll or to tap. So according to that gesture, your smart devices will recognize and functions accordingly. So this system manages the life cycle of the gesture of your mobile applications. By this, we have come to an end of intermediate question. Let's move on to the advanced questions. in advanced questions, let's see the first question. How to load data from the server in React Native. As of now, we have two fetches, that is React Native fetch and make request to the server. Now, let us take React Native fetch. So this allows you to make network request similar to the XML HTTP request. So that nothing but to integrate some of the React Native which fetches the API, now we have to define a resource and pass the URI to the fetch function. So that will return us the data based on the request that will be displayed the data through the view component. Now, if we take the next request, that is making request to the server side. If we take making request to the server side, so in this you need to pass the URI to fetch. It also takes an optimal second arguments that will be allowing us to customize some of the HTTP requests. So you may want to specify some additional headers or make a post request to do this. So let's move on to the next question. So is there any other way to store some sensitive data in React? If yes, then how can we achieve it? Okay. In React, it does not come with a bundle of storing some sensitive data, but there are some pre-existing solutions for both iOS and Android. So when we take iOS, it uses keychain services, which allows you to securely store some small amount of sensitive data for the users. So in this, it will be best to store some of the certificates or tokens or some passwords or any other some sensitive informations which does not belongs to sync storages. So when we take Android in the case, it uses shared preferences. So the data in shared preferences is not encrypted by default, but encrypted share preferences wraps some of the shared preferences by the class for Android, and it automatically encrypts the key and value. And Android also uses key store. So the key store system lets you to store some of the cryptographic keys, where Android also uses key store, where this system lets you to store some of the cryptography keys which is inside the container, which makes it too difficult for the extraction from the devices. Let's move on to the next question. What's the real cause behind performance issues in React Native? The performance issues might occur when we are passing the components from one thread to another thread unnecessarily, or whenever it is overloaded, or whenever we push some data whichever is not required or more than it requires. So this might be the one of the key reason. Also, by using console.log may also slow down the application. The main symptoms can be identified here is like slow navigator transition. However, this can be occurred other times as well, but these might consider the performance issues in React Native. Now let's see what are touchable components in React Native and which one to use when. Now what is touchable components? So whenever you touch on a button or on an image, some animation happens, like it dulls or it ripples or it even does not give any feedbacks, or it might dim sometimes, right? So that happens through this touchable components. So it will give you few feedbacks depending upon which type of touchable functions you have given to your application. So here we have 4 types of touchables. We will be discussing in details also. Like, what does touchable highlight does? When a person clicks on this touchable highlight function, so it darkens the background. And when a person touches the touchable native feedback, then the ripple effect happens on the screen or on the image. So if a person touches on touchable opacity, then the opacity of the button will dims at the time. And if he touches on the touchable without feedback function, then it does not give any effect or any feedback. So to give some animations, so you can use such touchable components also, and have these components have their own unique props, and you can customize on your linking or on your requirements. Now let us see how to integrate the React Native into some existing Android mobile applications. Actually, it is better to develop the mobile applications using React Native from scratch, but it also works well by adding to the existing Android apps as well. Now we will see how to integrate this using some Java. So we will follow some steps to integrate the React Native into our Android applications. So first we have to set up React Native dependencies, and also we will also add some directory structure. Also we will develop our React Native components using JavaScript. And also we will be adding React root view to our existing Android app. So this will serve as a container for our React Native component. After that, we will start the React Native server and we will run our application. And at last, we will verify the React Native application and we will check whether the expected output has been shown. Now, we will see the last and final question of advanced level. What are threads in general, and explain the different threads in React Native with the use of each. Here you can see the three threads: the main thread, the shadow thread, and JavaScript thread. So the thread that maintains a single sequence of flow of a program. As of now, the React Native employs only three threads. As I said you before, we have three threads, that is main thread, shadow thread, and JavaScript thread. So here the primary application that runs on the Android or iOS app is called the main or UI thread. This main thread has the access over the application of UI, that is user interfaces. Now let us see the shadow thread. It is a background thread that calculates the layout made of. Now we will see the shadow thread. Now shadow thread is the background thread that can be calculated the layout made within the React framework in React Native. And the final one is JavaScript thread. So this thread executes the main JavaScript codes. By this, we have come to an end of interview questions and answers. Now we will see some MCQ interactive questions where I will be giving you questions and I'll give you a 10-second time. Within that, I need the answers. So let's get started with the first question. Which is used to create immutable style sheet references? Your options are Redux, Style Sheet, Interaction Manager, or none of the above. Your time starts now. I started getting the responses. The correct answer is style sheets. So as it is immutable, the purpose of style sheet is to create the app. So developers can pass the natural style sheets into the create method. So this allows the developers to create new style objects in every render that they pass. I hope you understood. So let's move on to the next question. To update React, the latest version, what will you use? Option A, React Native Upgrade. Option B, React Native Init. Option C, both. Option D, none of the above. Your time starts now. I got correct answer from Shalini, Rohan, Tanishka, Vishalini, Anita, Deepak, Purna. Wow, many of them answered correct. Okay, the correct answer is both. So we use React Native Upgrade as well as React Native Init. So we use React Native Upgrade to upgrade the version, and React Native Init, we use this command to install all the upgraded version. Now let's move on to the next question. Which statement is true for props? Okay, I have explained you this in the interview questions. I hope everyone should answer. The option is it is mutable, it can't be modified, it is set and updated by the object, or none. Your time starts now. Okay, most of them answered correct. So the answer is can't be modified. As I discussed in the interview questions, the props cannot be modified. If you want to modify the properties, then you have to change the state itself, because the props are under the control of state. Okay, very good. Let's move on to the next question. React Native was initially released in option A 2014, option B 2000, option C 2008, and option D 2015. Your time starts now. Time's up. Yes, many of you answered correct. It is 2015. Good. So let's move on to the next question. Select the correct statement about uncontrolled components. So everyone should answer this because we have discussed this in our interview questions. So the options are: it maintains its internal states, a ref is used for their current values, data is controlled by the DOM, or all of the above. Your time starts now. Your time's up. The answer for this is all of the above. See, as we have discussed in the interview questions, the uncontrolled components has all the features here mentioned. Congratulations who have answered correctly. Let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is used in React to increase performance? Your options are A, virtual DOM, B, original DOM, that is actual DOM, C, both A and B, D, none of the above. Your time starts now. Many of you answered correct. Yes, it is virtual DOM. Because virtual DOM is a full representation of an actual DOM, so it will be increased in the performances. Very good. So let's move on to the next question. React Native has a set component for A, iOS platforms, B, Android platform, C, both iOS and Android platforms, D, none of the above. Your time starts now. Time's up. The answer is both iOS and Android platform, because React Native is an effective for using the same code base in the multiple platforms. So many of you answered correctly. I hope that you all understood the concept. So let's move on to the next question now. Name the hook that is used to change state in React Native. Your options are use effect, option B, use content, option C, use reducer, option D, use state. Your time starts now. Time's up. The answer for this is use state. So if we want to change the state, obviously we will use the state to change it for modifications or any alterations. Let's move on to the next question. So which component is used for rendering a long list of data in React Native? Everyone should answer this because we have discussed this in our interview question. Your options are A, flat list, B, scroll view, C, text, and D, div. Your time starts now. I'm getting all correct answers. Your time's up. Yes, as you said, the option A is the correct answer, flat list. I hope you all understood the concept. So let's move on to the final question of this session. That is, which module in React Native detects the platform in which the app is running? Your options are A, engine, B, platform, C, code detect, D, view. Your time starts now. Yes, everyone is answering correct. Your time's up. Yes, B, platform is the correct option. Everyone answered correctly. So most of the questions are correct for most of you. So I hope you all understood the concept clearly. So that is it for this session. Stuck around for the next few days because we have lot more content coming out in this topic. Hope you guys learned everything you needed in this session, and I'll see you around in the next video. Until then, happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!